We're back for episode 2 of the Rings of Power. So I guess the evil of Mount Doom is spreading to Khazad-dum? The music is epic, but the show doesn't deserve it at all. The scenes between Disa and Durin are actually the more tolerable ones in this show, and I can't believe they weren't in episode 1. Probably one of the many reasons they released 3 episodes at once. So is the evil spreading from Mount Doom what caused the cave collapse, or is it still the Balrog that we were shown at the end of last season? I still don't understand which one it's supposed to be. Durin tries to shield Disa and avoids getting crushed because of it. Honestly, this is in character for Durin, so I don't actually mind it as much. We cut over to Lindon. Galadriel plants seeds at her brother's grave to remind the audience that she has a brother, because otherwise you wouldn't remember him. He left one confusing impression about stones sinking and boats floating, and then he was immediately killed. Not exactly memorable. She turns and sees Celebrimbor, so this is definitely a vision, right? I'm asking because I genuinely wouldn't put it past them to just let Celebrimbor teleport to Lindon like this. Dream Celebrimbor tells Galadriel that it's her fault, which is 100% true. Celebrimbor gets tied up by the tree and chants a speech that will be engraved on the One Ring. So that was just a dream of hers, correct? Because Sauron can't be sending her visions because the One Ring hasn't been forged yet. It's how he connects to the other rings. Gil-galad is readying for war against Adar and the Orcs. Wow, if only the rest of the show would go at this pace. They have spies that saw Sauron go into Mordor, but no spies have arrived to let them know Halbrand was spotted outside of Rhegion. Okay.
If we move swiftly, we may be able to crush 2 spiders with 1 boot.
Such cringe dialogue. Gil-galad never replaced Galadriel as commander of the Northern armies because of course he didn't. Good lord.
And for that he needs not armies, but rings.
Galadriel tells Gil-galad Sauron's true plan, so now the elves know they need to go to Eregion, right? Gil-galad goes on to explain the layout of Eregion because that is where the battle will be this season. I don't know, call it an educated guess. Trust us bro, Celebrimbor is a-okay. Why is Galadriel allowed to keep this ring? She is still doing what Gil-galad sent her to Valinor for doing, and that was actually a favor back then. I guess Galadriel is just the greatest elven commander of our age. Oh yeah, that's right, because they wrote her husband Celeborn out of the story because they wanted to ship her and Sauron. Galadriel says she can see the future, and they rip off Peter Jackson again.
You believe the rings have kindled your ability to see that which has not yet come to pass.
Is there a echo in here, yes?
It was not Galadriel's ring in The Lord of the Rings that let Frodo see visions. It was the mirror of Galadriel. The rings don't have these powers. In the books, the rings are made to keep the world around the elves preserved and immortal like them, so they would not have to sail home to Valinor. They were not made because the elves' immortality itself was threatened, and they didn't have the ability to see into the future.
Yes, he knows my mind, and I know his, which is why I must face him.
Even if I just let this slide, Gil-galad is right, that she has already been duped once. I wouldn't let her leave Lindon if I was him, especially since she is wearing one of the Rings of Power. Galadriel calls Sauron Halbrand, which I don't mind because it's a good way of conveying that she is still recovering from his influence on her, but it's even more of a reason why Gil-galad should be throwing her into a cell for her own good, or taking the ring back from her. Galadriel suggests that she would not be going alone, and this is the only way I'd see Gil-galad letting her go, but even this is stretching it. If anything, Gil-galad would send Elrond and not Galadriel. We head back on over to Eregion, where Sauron's still sitting outside the tower waiting to be let in. Celebrimbor sends his assistant to tell Sauron he's not going to be granted entry. Sauron wants to talk to him directly, and she rightfully tells him good day. Myrdania notices Sauron's wounds and starts to feel sympathy. I think her name's Myrdania, I have no clue. Can't pronounce it. Celebrimbor refuses to treat with him. Galadriel told them not to trust him for no specific reason. I like Celebrimbor being determined to keep faith with Galadriel by not treating with Halbrand, but it's in service to a very flimsy reason.
Messengers from Lindon should arrive with news any day.
Dubbed in line that wasn't needed. I would assume Celebrimbor is waiting on news about the rings, and I'm wondering how Celebrimbor feels about Galadriel chasing Elrond all the way to Lindon. We cut over to the messenger that Gil-galad sent, who is dead. Sauron is alone as they've said, and he's been shown to be, so I'm assuming this is meant to be the Barrow-wights that we will eventually be seeing because of the chains. So the messenger just got off their horses and peeked into the graves in the middle of the day, and the Barrow-wights got the jump on them. They seemed pretty slow, but okay. So I skipped talking about the Harfoots in my riff on episode 1. I did have notes in a recorded section for the Harfoots, and you will now be hearing it. We then cut to Gandalf, Goodman, walking through the desert with a terrible filter that's meant to hide that they are filming in daylight. $1 billion budget, but couldn't wait to film at nighttime at the location, eh? With some decently lit lights. Goodman sees the staff that's totally not going to be his in the future. Female Frodo and Goodman get lost on their journey because They felt like they haven't poached enough from Peter Jackson. Female Frodo is hungry and Goodman explodes a tree to get beetles, and then they have a campfire beetle roast. Goodman tells female Frodo about his acid trips. Goodman says it's quite alright for a Harfoot to miss home. Nori and the Harfoots didn't have a home. They were nomads who left their own people behind if they couldn't keep up. What is this revisionist history? Goodman says he misses the idea of a potential home. He's talking about heaven, I'm assuming, obviously, since he's a starry, but like, what? They realize they are being followed and they put out the fire. Essentially pointless stuff that could have been cut, but hey, the normies need Harfoots, or they won't think it's Tolkienian enough. We cut back to Goodman and female Frodo out in the desert hunting.
Oh, come on!
They accidentally catch female Sam in their trap. Convenient. Female Frodo then asks female Sam about the rest of the Harfoots, and her answer is so quickly brushed over I can smell the criticism of season 1 bleeding in. The less of them in the show, the better, and the writers fully know this. Oh god. No. And then female Sam happens to bring a map with her that shows them how to get out of the Valley of Death. A big problem here is that female Sam and female Frodo had a tearful goodbye last season because female Sam couldn't go with her, but then suddenly at the beginning of this season, she's following them to pop up with exactly what they need. Contrived and convenient. They start tracing their steps through the desert with the song, which I'm gonna skip. We then cut to another totally not day shot with a terrible night filter. Good god, please just film at night, this looks terrible. Another shot of the masked individuals continuously watching them. You know, riveting stuff. We cut over to Caras Gaer.
Caras Gaer.
Gaer guys.
In Western Rune, because it's time to introduce us to more characters that are not involved in the main plot, because hey, Game of Thrones had a lot of random characters insignificant to the main plot too, and we want to be like them. We are introduced to the Dark Wizard, played by Kieran Hines, who feels out of place in this show because he can actually act, and his quote-unquote acolytes. They resurrect Slim Lady from last season with all the moths, because we were all totally clamoring for that character to come back, right? The Dark Wizard asks Slim Lady about news beyond the room, because I'm guessing all those guys he has out riding around can't spy or receive messages for him, I guess. Somehow Slim Lady knows all about Sauron, even though last season she mistaken not Gandalf for Sauron and never met Halbrand. How would she know anything, especially about a character she has never met because she's been dead?
And the Eastar, I hear whispers from salt scavengers and Mumakil thieves. Whispers of an old man in rags traveling east with 2 halflings.
So he does have spies and does receive news from the outside. Why is he asking her about anything then? Sounds like he knew exactly what happened to her already.
Perhaps the blood I wasted to bring you before me should have been spent on more useful servants.
Yes, you shouldn't have wasted the blood. The Dark Wizard goes on to chastise Slim Lady for having to resurrect her when he totally could have just not done that. He has all these other magic users. What is this scene? One of his trackers tells him that they can capture not Gandalf and bring him back in chains. Gonna put a big fat check next to doubt on that one. What makes you think a mortal like yourself could defeat an Istar?
When my most powerful acolytes could not.
You're screwed if those 3 were your most powerful magic users. The tracker says he will threaten not Frodo and Sam to get Gandalf to surrender. Mance Raider's 3 acolytes did this as well, and they had magic. You have even less of a chance, my dude. Not Frodo is trying to come up with names for not Gandalf, riveting stuff.
But don't you see? No one can give you a name. It is yours already. It is who you are. And when you hear it spoken, you feel your heart glow.
Trying to sound profound with the most idiotic lines of dialogue I have ever heard. Your parents name you. You can say not Gandalf is a special circumstance. He fell out of the sky in a meteor. He can just call himself whatever he wants. Not Sam says they can cut their journey in half and they all stare out into a waterless giant desert. Not Gandalf says no to going that way because he has half a brain.
How about Dodrick? You already said Dodrick. No, I didn't. Yes, you did.
I can see what you're trying to do, but it is not working. Not Sam wants not Gandalf to conjure up some water, and not Frodo says he needs to find his Gand, aka his staff. They hear horse hooves approaching. Wow, not Gandalf has elf senses, acting more like an elf than the actual elves in this show. They go to hide, and the Harfoots are shown to be quick at hiding, which I don't mind. They are meant to be small and able to sneak with ease. Not Gandalf seems to be screwed, but when the trackers arrive, he is successfully hidden, so I guess he has the senses of an elf and the hiding abilities of a Harfoot. Incredible. We get another ripoff of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Is there a echo in here, yes?
The second time they have ripped off this same exact scene from the Fellowship with the hobbits hiding from the Nazgul. I can't believe this. They also managed to rip off another scene from the Two Towers in this same scene when Frodo and Sam are outside the Black Gate.
Is there a echo? echo in here, yes?
So after getting a double tap on Peter Jackson, they decide to brave the deadly waterless desert. They repeat the nobody goes off trail line while going off trail. Disa and the other dwarves are preparing to sing to the mountain. One of the singers says that a curse may have been placed upon the mountain after her husband let Elrond in. Okay, so far the scene is not terrible.
Khazad-dum is like a songbird. May sound filling from afar, but up close it's an empty feast.
Never mind. I swear I'm gonna have to make a compilation of all the terrible metaphors in this show, but that would require me to rewatch season 1, which I will not do. Okay, so it isn't Black Goose spreading, it is ground shakes from Mount Doom exploding that caused the collapse. Unless they're implying that the first scene from this episode was set around when Mount Doom exploded, which would cause even more problems, it must have been an aftershock, which can occur days to years after an earthquake or volcanic eruption, so I will give them a pass on that. My main issue is with the dwarves having sun shafts. If the dwarves needed the sun to grow food, why build in mountains? I get they want to have easier access to mining, but I feel like your number one priority would be growing food. Please end. So they are going to start digging blind. Of course, until they reach the inevitable Balrog, I imagine. Durin the Third asks for Disa to give him a dressing down so he can go sulk on his throne for a few more episodes until the Balrog comes to. Wow, I keep getting ahead of myself over here. Good lord, this subplot between the two Durins is so pointless. The other dwarves make fun of Durin for having palace hands when not even a season ago he was mining the mithril with them, and when the mines collapsed, he was one of the first dwarves to rush in to save others. All the dwarves kind of forgot about that, apparently.
You think this is about food?
That's what it sounds like since your farms are gone. We cut back to the Grey Havens where Elrond is making boats now. Sounds peaceful until Galadriel shows up. Galadriel tells Elrond about our letters with an S. So they have sent more than one messenger then. Wow, so many hazards on the roads these days, huh?
As you are so fond of reminding me, Galadriel, I'm but a politician.
As you are so fond of reminding me, Sho, you have completely butchered these characters beyond belief.
He refuses to send me without you.
And why is that?
You know the reason.
I'm asking if you know it.
The High King believes that if I were to face the enemy alone, I may be vulnerable to deception.
And why would he think that?
Stop it, Elrond.
Actually, he should keep going, all the way to you should just give up that ring and head on back to Valinor. Galadriel is a complete and utter liability to the elves in every single way.
And under his hand I was played like a harp to a melody not of my choosing.
Please make it stop.
It was entirely of your choosing.
Elrond like 30, Galadriel 1.
Sauron looked inside you, plucked the very song of your soul, note by note.
No, please, Elrond, stop. I was on your side. Please don't join in.
Making himself out to be exactly what you needed, the lost king who could ride you to victory.
Oh, she wanted a ride, all right.
You gave him everything he wanted and then thanked him for it.
Elrond mic drop.
And now he has done the same to Gil-galad and to every elf in Lindon.
Oh, wow, Sauron is getting around.
He may well want you in Eregion.
Another Elrond W.
I cannot let him in again.
But you want to face him again, so no matter what, he's gonna get in. Elrond tells Galadriel to leave, and she actually does, probably to help facilitate our next scene with more lore breaking. Elrond goes to talk to Cirdan, who is shaving off his beard. The one elf in Middle-earth with a beard shaves his beard. Okay.
What is beauty when it is born in part of evil?
No less beautiful.
Yes, Cirdan, but that doesn't make it any less evil.
Would you cast Romil's verses into the flame because the poet was a drunkard?
There is a difference between the beauty of a painting or a poem compared to a magical ring that can control the minds of others, which itself is a major lore break from what I've read. A piece of art cannot control your mind. You can try and argue that piece of arts out there can change your mind, but they don't literally control your actions like the Rings of Power are apparently able to do. Since Elrond isn't allowed to say the obvious dunk I just mentioned, Cirdan starts going on a tangent mentioning some other elves, I'm assuming. I'm not a lore expert by any means. A Song of Ice and Fire is more my area, but then he ends it with a lazy metaphor about the sun weeping tears of fire. Good God, is this episode almost over? Cirdan puts his ring finger into the water, which attracts the fish to it. Cirdan starts torturing a fish on land to show Elrond the power of the rings. Don't think that was necessary, just makes it more apparent that Elrond is right and you should have destroyed the rings.
But do not let that fear blind you to the ways it can be used for good.
Why not use this ring? In a dream, I saw the eastern sky grow dark, but in the west a pale light lingered. The voice was crying, your doom is near at hand.
But rather open your eyes
before the darkness spreads across Middle-earth.
I think Elrond needs to open Círdan's eyes to how idiotic he is being. Círdan is apparently the oldest and wisest elf, but I have not seen this shown on screen. Classic case of telling and not showing. They're telling me Círdan has the will of Boromir. We cut back to not Gandalf, female Frodo, and Sam strolling through a desert. My favorite storyline. They drag not Gandalf to a nearby well, and I'm sure this is going to go fantastic. Why does the well have an annoying bell on it that rings as you're getting water? Even the people owning this would think that is irritating. Not Gandalf finds a walking stick, which is convenient because as he turns around, the Dark Wizard's trackers are just standing there on their horses. I guess not Gandalf and the Harfoots being too thirsty made them unable to hear the trackers approaching this time. The trackers charge in without the element of surprise. I get wanting to be cautious because he's in a star, but holy cow, you could have gotten the jump on them and grabbed female Frodo and Sam before not Gandalf could blink. Gandalf uses the little staff and accidentally causes a tornado. Female Frodo and Sam get yeeted out of this episode. Maybe this not Gandalf guy is becoming likable after all. We cut back to Eregion. Celebrimbor gets to actually be a smith for once just to give us a memberberry scene. A Thildin? The refined mithril that glows in the moonlight? Oh, what this show could have been. So Celebrimbor says quite invisible, causing him to ask about Halbrand. A very clunky way to make your character switch subjects. If you wanted to start with the memberberries, plus making Celebrimbor ask about Halbrand still being at the gates, you could have done it. Oh, out of the moonlight, it is all but invisible. It is. Just like I wish that infernal man at the gates would be. Anything to establish that Halbrand is still at the gates without just having Celebrimbor ask out of nowhere.
The night is cold, my lord. Shall I bring him a shawl?
Merdania took one look at Halbrand and it was over apparently. Sauron is just standing, staring at Celebrimbor's forge all day with no sleep, food, or water. Nothing a normal man needs. And none of the guards, Merdania, or Celebrimbor are suspicious of this. Okay. It starts to rain and Celebrimbor decides this is the perfect time to go confront Sauron face to face. Celebrimbor is... What is that umbrella? So Celebrimbor comes out to get soaking wet thanks to the poorly designed umbrella just to tell Sauron he is not welcome. He says he'll be removed by force. Okay, so I'm not a lore expert and my introduction to the character of Celebrimbor was in the Shadow of Mordor games, which notoriously also destroy the lore, but so far that single line of dialogue is the only time he has felt like Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor fought in many wars during the First Age, but in this show you'd be mistaken for thinking that because Celebrimbor doesn't come across as having had that history. He comes across as a petty, starving artist who has never picked up a blade. Celebrimbor immediately falls for the trap, showing us once again that Sauron isn't smart, everyone around him is just a moron. Oh my god, Galadriel, thank you for being so vague with Celebrimbor because it's going to help defeat Sauron in the end, right? Sauron gets handed the easiest layup in history. Sauron does reverse psychology and it works because he buttered him up. Celebrimbor sits him down and asks about the rings, even though it seems pretty obvious from the conversation outside that Sauron doesn't know what happened. He just said, haven't you? And Celebrimbor took that to mean he does in fact. Sauron continues to be vague, almost like he doesn't know anything, and says yes, that they did, which is dumb, but I will give Charles Edwards some credit here. I think while he was miscast as Celebrimbor, I don't think he's a terrible actor, and he properly conveys in this scene his happiness with hearing that his work has succeeded in saving the elves.
But
shouldn't all of the elves in Middle-earth have felt when they put the 3 rings on?
I did not come here to toast the elven rings.
Sauron goes back to manipulating because we need 7 for the dwarf lords.
To make rings for men.
Oh, never mind. He just straight up asks Celebrimbor to make rings for men. I wonder what reason he'll come up with for them to craft 9. Is it even more balanced than 3? Celebrimbor is completely hesitant like he should be. Sauron then says the dwarves are facing a crisis which he shouldn't know. Even being a Maiar, he shouldn't know this. Then the criticism begins to creep back into the show as Sauron goes on to tell Celebrimbor that his name is not Halbrand, and that he is no mortal.
There are forces in this world beyond evil, Celebrimbor.
So, super mega evil? That line does not convey what they think it conveys. Sauron goes on to tell Celebrimbor that he is a messenger sent by the Valar and that him and Celebrimbor need to make rings for men and dwarves to stop the darkness. At first, Celebrimbor reacts how he should, finding it to be a load of horse manure. Sauron then disappears and then reappears from the fire, dressed in white with a new haircut.
I can unlock your grandest abilities, and when our work is complete, never again will the world overlook you as the mere scion of Feanor.
No. Wait. Wait. Aye!
The Lord of the Rings.
No. Wait.
I physically Cringed. Way too heavy-handed with the name drop at the end there. This is what should have happened in season 1. I get you wanted Charlie Vickers to keep getting paid, but wow, it's going to be utterly hilarious when anybody that's met Halbrand sees Anatar. Back in Lindon, Gil-galad is staring longingly at Vilya as Galadriel walks in. Gil-galad agrees to send Galadriel to Eregion. Good idea to send more men, but Galadriel going is still a terrible idea.
Thank you. It's not I you ought to thank.
Elrond walks in. Elrond was waiting behind the corner to surprise Galadriel for some reason. Gil-galad tells Galadriel that Elrond will be leading the company. Elrond is clearly more competent, so this makes sense, but my point still stands that she should not be going anywhere near Eregion. Gil-galad, Cirdan, and Galadriel are now all important figures carrying Rings of Power, so they should be as far away from Sauron as possible. They shoot the scene like Galadriel has been wronged when Gil-galad is 100% right in not letting her lead anything. We cut back to Khazad-dum. Durin and Disa have received a letter from Celebrimbor inviting them to Eregion. Ah, I see. So the rest of this season will focus on the dwarves getting their rings?
Fuck me, that was fast.
I see. Just wow. It took me a whole nother week to complete this video, and I intend to keep going. Episode 5 has already been released since I finished this, and I will get there in time. I'm Riff, and unfortunately, I'll be back to review Episode 3.